All right, buckle up because we're about to break down one of the most insane comeback stories in all of history. We're talking about Alfred the Great, and trust me, this dude's story is absolutely wild. So picture this. It's the year 865, and Britain is about to have a really bad day. Viking raiders had been showing up on British shores for decades, snagging some loot and bouncing. But this time, whole different ball game, fam. We're talking hundreds of longships pulling up to East Anglia, packed with thousands of the most hardcore Norse warriors you could imagine. And here's the kicker. They brought their families, their wives, their kids, their craftsmen. These Vikings weren't here for a quick cash grab. Nah, they came to stay. The English kingdoms didn't stand a chance. Within 2 years, the mighty kingdoms of Northumbria and East Anglia got absolutely steamrolled. The Vikings were built different, fierce, relentless, and completely ruthless in battle. Fast forward to 871, and these Norse invaders finally set their sights on Wessex, the last major Saxon kingdom still standing. King Ethelred and his younger brother Alfred had to step up big time and lead their people against this existential threat. What followed was basically a medieval slugfest, 9 massive battles in a single year, with both sides trading wins and losses. We're talking brutal, close-quarters combat with swords, axes, and shields. Real nasty stuff. But then, more Viking ships appeared on the horizon, fresh reinforcements ready to join the fight. The Saxon army was mostly farmers and townspeople, and they were getting completely overwhelmed by sheer numbers. During one particularly gnarly battle at Merton, King Ethelred took a serious wound. He hung on for a bit, but eventually succumbed to his injuries. Just like that, 22-year-old Alfred watched his 4th and final brother die. The crown he never wanted was now his burden to carry. See, Alfred wasn't your typical warrior prince hungry for power. Dude was more interested in books and learning than battles and glory. He dreamed of a quiet life studying philosophy and religion, but fate had other plans, and now the survival of his entire kingdom rested on his shoulders. With his army in shambles and Vikings still pressing hard, Alfred had to make a tough call. He paid them off, handed over a massive pile of treasure just to get some breathing room. It was humiliating, but sometimes you gotta swallow your pride to survive. The Vikings took the gold and bounced to conquer Mercia instead. By 875, every other English kingdom had fallen. Wessex was literally the last one standing, a tiny island of Saxon independence in a sea of Norse conquest. The pressure was unreal. Enter Guthrum, an absolute unit of a Viking warlord who spotted an opportunity to finish the job. This guy was cunning, ruthless, and had zero respect for any promises or oaths. He gathered his forces and marched toward Wessex, ready to snuff out the last Saxon resistance. But here's the thing about Alfred. Dude was smart. He used that bought time wisely, completely rebuilding and reorganizing his military forces. When the Vikings came back around, he was actually ready for them this time. Alfred managed to trap Guthrum's forces inside the town of Wareham. The Vikings were solid defenders, though, and Alfred couldn't crack their walls, so he switched tactics and tried the diplomatic route instead. Alfred made Guthrum swear an oath on his sacred arm ring, a holy object dedicated to Thor himself. Guthrum promised to exchange hostages and peace out of Wessex forever. Alfred figured even a Viking wouldn't break an oath to his own god. Big mistake. The second Alfred turned his back, Guthrum showed his true colors. He murdered all the hostages and bolted to Exeter to wait for backup ships. Turns out swearing to Thor meant absolutely nothing to this guy. He'd break any promise that got in his way. But then something crazy happened. Alfred blockaded the coast, and when the Viking reinforcement fleet tried to land, a massive storm rolled in and wrecked their ships against the rocks. Maybe the Norse gods weren't too happy about that broken oath after all. Without his backup, Guthrum retreated to Mercia. For an entire year, there were 0 Viking attacks on Wessex. Alfred started thinking maybe, just maybe, he'd actually won this thing. He let his guard down. That would prove to be a near-fatal error. January 878, Alfred throws a massive Christmas celebration at Chippenham. He invites all his top nobles, his best warriors, the clergy, everyone who mattered. It was supposed to be a joyful gathering to celebrate their survival and honor their faith. Instead, it became a nightmare. Guthrum had been playing the long game, waiting for exactly this moment. He knew the Saxons celebrated Christmas as a holy day when they'd be unarmed and vulnerable. In the dead of night, his warriors stormed the feast hall, catching everyone completely off guard. What followed was pure chaos. Viking berserkers crashed through the doors, axes swinging, cutting down unarmed nobles and soldiers alike. Screaming, blood everywhere, total pandemonium. 7 years of struggle nearly ended in one devastating surprise attack. In the mayhem, Alfred and a handful of bodyguards barely managed to escape into the freezing marshlands of Somerset. Behind them, the screams of their dying comrades echoed through the night. The king ran until he couldn't run anymore. Exhausted, covered in mud, looking like a common beggar, Alfred stumbled upon a peasant woman's cottage. She had no clue this pathetic-looking dude was actually her king. She took pity on him and let him rest by her fire. The old woman asked him to watch some cakes she was baking, but Alfred just stared into the flames, his mind 1,000 miles away. 7 years of fighting, all that sacrifice, his men dying so he could escape. What kind of leader abandons his people? The weight of failure crushed him. Snap! The old woman's voice broke through his trance. He'd let the cakes burn to a crisp. She chewed him out something fierce, having no idea she was scolding the King of Wessex. It was rock bottom, the lowest point a king could sink to. Most people would have quit right there. The King of Mercia had already fled to Rome when the Vikings came for him. But something inside Alfred refused to give up. Maybe it was his faith telling him this was a divine test. Maybe he just wanted payback for his ruined Christmas. Either way, he made a choice. After months of hiding and planning, Alfred sent out messengers across the kingdom with one simple message. Meet at Egbertstone, 7th week after Easter. Bring your sword. We fight together, not as nobles or peasants, but as Englishmen. One last stand against the invaders. But would anyone actually show up? The Vikings had murdered his best soldiers. Many nobles had switched sides or fled the country entirely. As Alfred rode towards the meeting point, doubt gnawed at his gut. What if nobody came? What if his kingdom had lost faith in him completely? And then Alfred crested that final hill and saw something that probably brought tears to his eyes. 4,000 men stood waiting for him, swords raised high, cheering their king's name. They'd heard his call and answered. They were ready to throw down for their homeland. In that moment, Alfred transformed from a defeated fugitive into a legendary war leader. These weren't just soldiers. They were fathers, farmers, blacksmiths, shopkeepers, regular folks willing to risk everything for freedom, and they were looking to him to lead them to victory. Alfred marched his army straight to Guthrum's position at Edington. No more running, no more negotiations. The two forces formed up in massive shield walls and charged directly at each other. The crash of shields and weapons could probably be heard from miles. And Alfred wasn't chilling in the back giving orders. Nah, this king led from the absolute front lines, trading blows with Viking warriors in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Hour after hour, the battle raged with neither side giving ground. But eventually, something incredible happened. The supposedly unbeatable Viking army started breaking. Their formation collapsed, and suddenly they were running. The great heathen army that had conquered all of England was fleeing in panic. Alfred's men chased them down without mercy. Guthrum and his surviving warriors managed to reach Chippenham, the same town where they'd massacred Alfred's people at Christmas. Now the tables had completely turned. Alfred surrounded the place and settled in for a siege, letting starvation do the work. After weeks without food, Guthrum finally gave up. He probably expected Alfred to execute him and his entire army. That's certainly what Vikings would have done. But Alfred had something way more unexpected in mind. Alfred offered a deal nobody saw coming. Guthrum could surrender peacefully, but first he had to convert to Christianity and get baptized. Alfred would be his godfather.
Then every Viking had to leave Wessex and never come back ever. Guthrum, figuring this beat getting his head chopped off, agreed. Now here's the truly wild part. This was the same dude who'd broken every oath and betrayed every agreement. Nobody expected this to stick. But somehow Guthrum actually took his conversion seriously. He adopted his Christian name, ruled his territory peacefully, and never attacked Alfred again until the day he died. With the Viking threat neutralized, Alfred got to work building something that would last. He created the first real English navy, designing new warships that could challenge Viking longboats. Never again would his people be helpless against seaborne raiders. But here's the thing, Alfred wasn't just about war and defense. Remember, this dude always wanted to be a scholar. He personally translated important Latin texts into...
That's it for today. If this story hooked you, drop a comment and tell me what you thought. Did it surprise you? I'll be back with the next part soon. See you then.